Welcome back. We are joined now by two reporters who are one in the studio, Kimberly Leonard, who writes for Politico and writes the Florida Playbook, covering all things Florida politics. And from Tallahassee, we have Liv Caputo, a State House reporter for the Tampa Bay Times. And Liv, I have to start with you. Congratulations on the new job. Very nice of you to be representing us here in Tallahassee. Always good to have smart people covering the legislature. But I want to start with you and the governor's race. How do you sort of see these campaigns? To me, the interesting note is what's happening on the Republican side. Specifically, where does James Fishback end up? All right, apparently we're having problems with Liv. The gremlins are definitely in the studio today. Kimberly, I'll start with you. Since you had a second to actually think about the question I asked Liv, I'll go ahead and ask you the same question. What are you looking for in this governor's race? What are you on election night? I think most people think Byron Donalds is going to win, but is the James Fishback of it all being blown out of proportion?
Well, I think that's what we're waiting to see because, like you mentioned earlier, if we see close to 15 or 20%, that's a whole separate story, right? Looking at that electorate, what exactly it is that has drawn voters to him, and does he have a sort of energy behind him of base Republican voters who then will not show up for Byron Donalds in November, right? Because the formula for Democrats all along has not just been to try to win over disaffected Republicans, to get their own base, to get independents, but also to hope that a lot of Republicans stay home. And so that's a big factor as to why we're watching that electorate. If
it's a foregone conclusion that Byron Donalds is going to win, and that's the main thing that is attracting most statewide voters, they may stay home, whereas Fishback supporters may be more energized to want to try to make a showing. Is that sort of the dynamics that could be at work there?
Yeah, or they might make the general election difficult, right, for Byron Donalds. They might show up and do big protests every time he does a rally. They might call into his program, just as they did a couple weeks ago, right, and ask him questions about Israel, about race, about things that, are uncomfortable to talk about. And so that's why it's kind of a big question mark. I don't know that it does translate because, true, he gets a lot of clicks, he gets a lot of viewers online and things like that, but where's the fundraising, right? Where's the typical apparatus where you see these insurgent candidates do well?
Jolly is likely to be the nominee once Jerry Demings had to drop out of the race because of health reasons. Dottie Joseph, very well-respected woman, but, a state representative, but she's clearly, running a late campaign without a lot of money. So folks are thinking Jolly, but at the same time, last I checked campaign finance reports, he's only got like $6 million compared to Byron Donalds' $99 or $100 million.
Yeah, and there could be some people keeping their powder dry to wait for the general, right? But I think what is notable is that despite this huge fundraising advantage for Byron Donalds, if you look at the polls, they're actually in the single digits. So it makes you wonder what David Jolly could do if someone were to write a really big check.
All right, I want to jump over to the Congressional District 20, the race with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I want to show some pictures. Can we put those pictures up? This was a tweet that Debbie Wasserman Schultz put up recently where she talked about an event that she gathered, and I just find this picture. So do you have all the other pictures as well? That just sort of like look at this. Yeah. It's what's the Cookie Monster used to say? One of these things is not like the other. This is Debbie Wasserman Schultz running in a very black district surrounded by black supporters. Message is a little subtle. What do you see that race heading into right now as Debbie Wasserman Schultz seems to be doing well because so many other candidates are splitting the black vote?
Well, not just that, she's also really well known because she's always been a big national figure, right? I mean, she was DNC chair. I had the opportunity to follow her around for several weeks. I wrote a big magazine profile piece about her. Look, she is someone who has been very present, has been working the district a lot, but people are obviously very upset that she's not running in the district that she lives in. That district got stretched out during the redistricting, And so it actually stretches all the way over to Marco Island now. So she chose to run in the 20th district, which is all the way in Broward County. And she was just sharing with me that to her, that really felt like the right move because she feels so connected to Broward. So we'll see if voters agree or disagree, right? Because it's a historically Black district held by a Black lawmaker for over 30 years. And there are so many other candidates who are running who've been just very upset at her choice.
I want to play, I want to play parts of two commercials that are running in District 24, because I find these fascinating. Let's see if we can play those now.
The Florida legislature is spending millions of your tax dollars to rename Palm Beach's airport after Donald Trump. And Chevron Jones helped make it happen. Chevron Jones voted not once, but twice with Senate Republicans in committee.
Gilbert took $160,000 from the MAGA contractor behind Alligator Alcatraz. Then, Gilbert allowed Miami-Dade to continue working with ICE. Another MAGA billionaire cut Gilbert a check. And Gilbert voted to send millions of tax dollars to his company.
Now, the common denominator in these ads is who can be portrayed in a negative way as being aligned with Trump, and who's the true anti-Trump candidate. That's the entirety of the race. But that second ad, the one attacking Oliver Gilbert, that ad is fascinating to me for two reasons. One, it misrepresents headlines that were supposedly in the Miami Herald, so they sort of do something shady. And it's by a group called Protect Progress, which, even though the word crypto appears nowhere in that ad, that is entirely financed by the crypto industry, who has put more than $2 million behind those ads against Oliver Gilbert. Crypto is suddenly making an appearance in District 24.
Well, it's a big issue on Capitol Hill, right? And it's something that they're going to want to be bipartisan depending on whether Democrats are able to flip the House. So of course they're going to be involved in a seat that is so obviously going to go to a Democrat, right? So they're going to want someone.
It's a little sneaky though, because they're not talking crypto. Right.
This is how they do things, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting race too. And I was looking at campaign finance reports last night, and Nancy Pelosi has actually given to Kendrick Meek in that contest. And I was reading that not just her, but then her political committee too. You have Chev Jones in it, Oliver there. I mean, lots of very competitive big names. And like you said, whoever wins the seat could be there a really long time.
Yeah, this is one of those seats that is probably, whoever gets in is likely to be there for next couple of decades because it is a very safe Democratic seat. And was touched a little bit by redistricting, but just made more Democratic in many ways. I think Kamala Harris won the seat by like 30 or 40 points, so it's not a competitive seat at all. All right, in the next half hour, we're going to talk about the Senate race with you, because I find it fascinating that in the same issues we were talking about Fishback on the right, the Senate has the DSA candidates and that energy on the left. And it's sort of interesting because you almost get the sense that the way they go around, the Fishback and the DSA folks may actually overlap in some areas. So we'll talk about that in the next half hour.